Thank you to everyone who's come today to enjoy a bit of family history with us. I'm delighted to have with us Gill Thomas, who is a professional genealogist with AGRA, the Association of Genealogists and Researchers and Archives, who we are doing this week with. And she's a specialist in Welsh research. So thank you for coming in today, Gill.
That's my complete pleasure, Sarah. Delighted to join you.
So I understand you cover many areas of genealogy, Gill, but you're going to be helping a reader today with a Welsh query. So what is it about Welsh research that makes it different to English?
Well, obviously it's very special. That's the first thing to say. But there are four key areas of difference, really. The most obvious one is language. The Welsh language probably pretty impenetrable to anybody that hasn't been immersed in Welsh culture, and it has implications because place names can be in Welsh or in English, and that has a particular relevance with regards to census enumerators, who very often were English speaking. So you have to get your head around that first of all. The thing that people mainly think about when they consider researching Welsh ancestry is surnames. There are just too many Thomases and Williams, and we just means that we have to try a little bit harder to make sure that we've absolutely got the right person. The third thing is that there is a much higher incidence of nonconformity, which can mean that your ancestors might be missing from parish registers. So, for example, a typical parish in rural Wales might, for every 5 baptisms performed in the parish church, there might be another 1 that has been only recorded in chapel, and that's a much higher proportion than you would find in English records. And finally, the records themselves, well, there are great gaps, and the survival rate for some parishes is poor, again, in comparison with England. And it means that some record types, such as settlement examination registers, you just won't find. I can remember going to Ceredigion Archives in Aberystwyth and asking them if they had settlement examination registers for a parish in Cardiganshire. Well, let's just say they all rolled around a bit like hyenas, the tears rolling down their cheeks. Such was the level of hilarity at the very thought of anything having survived. So I think it's best to try and find 3 different sets of records to make sure that you have actually got the right Mary Jones.
Yes, I can imagine. And I know there's a lot of Welsh parish registers are online, but would that include the non-conformist ones, or is that not the case?
No, there's a pretty good. In fact, I think the coverage now is better than ever. The 3 big subscription sites, Ancestry, Find My Past and The Genealogist, all have non-conformist registers. And also there is the BMD registers.co.uk, which you have to pay for, but the coverage is really pretty good. And the good news, if you've got non-conformist ancestors, is that you're much more likely to have the maiden name of the mother included in a baptism record.
Excellent. So you've come on today to help with someone's Welsh question they've submitted. This one was by Jeri Williams, and he has said, I'm looking for a baptism record for Llewelin Reese Williams. I have a marriage record that says his father was John Williams, a farmer, and I've found him in the censuses up to 1861 before the family migrated to the US. And these census records suggest he was born between 1813 and 1815 in Llanthew, Wales. I've managed to track down the baptism record for his wife, Martha Davis, who was baptised on June the 15th, 1807 in Radnorshire. I would love to find his baptism record. I believe the family were non-conformist. So that ties in a bit with your non-conformist thing. I hope I got the pronunciations right there.
Excellent.
Probably not. But is there any hope for Jeri? Is he being optimistic there, or too optimistic? Because I know a lot of people think there'll be a baptism or record for everyone, or a birth record for everyone. That isn't always the case. What can Jeri do next?
Well, I'm wondering why he thinks that they are non-conformists. I had a look at the marriage record, and sadly it doesn't indicate whether the marriage was performed after the calling of banns or whether it was performed with the benefit of a license. And a license would be a very good indicator as to whether or not somebody might have been non-conformist. Obviously, they had to legally marry in church. So that's the first thing to say. But there are a number of different record sets that can be examined to see whether any further information comes to light about Llewelyn. The National Library of Wales website has marriage bonds listed before 1837, so those could be searched. Find My Past has baptisms for Breconshire as part of its data collection. The other thing is, I mean, I had a look at where Llanthew is, and it's a very, very small place, very close to Brecon. If you're not familiar with the geography of the area, then the genealogist.org.uk website is a really good resource in terms of seeing, you know, how close it is to other areas. And it may be that maybe the baptism took place in another area. Offline, of course, there are the resources that Jeri could use using the Powys Family History Society. There are non-conformist indexes which you can download. You have to buy them, and the looking at the index would be a pretty good way to start. I wondered whether it was definitely the correct marriage record, but one way to make sure that it is, of course, is to check the registration of the birth of their children, John and Llewelyn. The Find My Past records actually now has in many cases has the mother's maiden name as part of that registration, even though you don't get to see the full certificate. The other thing that occurred to me was that if the Llangynidir marriage is right, one of the witnesses was Benjamin Williams. This could be a relative of Llewelyn, so maybe look for a baptism for Benjamin Williams in that area, and that might in turn lead back to something else. Llewelyn, of course, is a fine Welsh name, but there are many, many variations. Equally, Williams is sometimes used as William as well. So when you're searching online, remember not to check the exact box and make full use of Soundex features, because there's any number of different permutations in terms of how you can spell the first name. The other thing I think in a case like this, which is really useful, is to create a timeline. So use all of the different records that you found, starting with death and working backwards to calculate a very approximate birth date. If Jeri does this for Llewelyn, it might help to make doubly sure that it is definitely the right person, especially because it's slightly unusual that Martha appears to have been about 7 years older than Llewelyn. So I think the combination of all of those different routes might provide some clarity, hopefully. Equally, you know, let's manage expectations. You might not find it because survival rate of records isn't always as good as one might hope. I think the other thing is that Jeri might be interested to know that there is a Welsh in Ohio feature on the National Library of Wales website. I was astonished actually when I was looking at it. Almost 11,000 Welshmen and women emigrated to Ohio State by the beginning of the 20th century. Most of them were miners, which fits in well with Llewelyn, or they worked in agriculture. So there's a definite pattern of emigration going on here.
So he could, there might be people who have found this record, or there might be connections he can make there. Oh, that's very interesting. I think this issue of people sometimes finding your doubt over the wedding or marriage. I mean, it is very easy to hold on to an online discovery and assume it relates to your family. And I imagine with Welsh research and similarity of names, that can be a common problem.
Yes, I think so. I mean, Llewelyn you would think maybe is a name that doesn't pop up that frequently, but actually it does.
Right. Yes. So don't necessarily think that it is Llewelyn. It might be someone else's Llewelyn.
Yes.
Thank you. That was very helpful. I hope that gives Jeri, a bit more inspiration, some more thoughts, and to really check what he has already found, which of course is just as important as finding new stuff, is being confident with what else you found. So thank you very much for joining us today, Gill. That was really appreciated. Thank you.
Complete pleasure.
Okay. Bye.